Coming up, big news in the engine world, why diesel might become more accessible. AirVenture is just a few days away. Get a peek at what's in store. Plus, Boy Scouts and aviation, how AOPA is bridging the gap. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment. Chinese buy up more general aviation companies. Hello everyone, I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching AOPA Live this week. A surprising announcement this week, Aviation Industry Corporation of China, AVIC, has bought Thielert Aircraft Engines out of bankruptcy in Germany. The Thielert diesel engines will now become part of the Continental line of companies out of Mobile, Alabama. And that gives Continental a full family of Jet A fueled piston engines. Earlier today, I asked Continental President Rhett Ross what this means to aviation.
Well, Tom, as you and I have talked before, diesel has been of high priority to Continental and was one of the reasons that AVIC International acquired us. We understood that we needed to get more diesel technology out to the marketplace faster. So what this means for the flying public is we now have an effective, proven 150 horsepower engine that works well on many aircraft. There's over 3,500 that have been built and fielded, over 2,000 still in operation. You know, normal cycle life brings the others out. With great experience, we bring the TD300 will be coming to the Centurion line. So now we have a 250 certified or 230 horsepower certified diesel engine. And we'll be bringing back to life the 300 horsepower engine technology that Thielert was working on right before it hit its rocky patch.
So do you see this as a bigger move from an OEM, an aircraft manufacturer standpoint, or from an aftermarket standpoint?
I think it's a big deal for both, and I'm not being politically correct there. This is an opportunity for older aircraft to have kind of that second life that you sometimes see in automobiles. They still have useful life when we in North America may not want them. So there are opportunities to see some of these older aircraft go through the STC process and go to other parts of the world. We see this as a way for the OEMs to really introduce products that can be used outside of North America and Europe. Places like Africa, Asia, the Pacific Rim, South America. Those are all regions that cry out for the single fuel, widely available fuel, Jet A. This gives it to them, and this gives the OEMs a way to really bring on the power plant side something new that they can put their product out into those regions.
Expect to hear more next week out of AirVenture for some applications for those engines. And you can read a lot more about diesel engine technology in our special propulsion series in the August issue of AOPA Pilot Magazine. The digital edition is already out. The print version will be arriving soon. Well, some big bucks for New Jersey airports. AOPA President Craig Fuller flew to Lincoln Park Airport northwest of Newark, New Jersey this week to join other aviation leaders to announce nearly $2 million in state funds for New Jersey general aviation airports.
And the state of New Jersey and the Department of Transportation has a robust program to promote aviation. It's part of the mandate for the Commissioner of Transportation. We give out annually about $7 million a year in grants for infrastructure that support aviation.
And that includes some $800,000 for Lincoln Park to repair and rebuild after Superstorm Sandy from last fall. Another privately owned airport, Sky Manor in Pittstown, received nearly $700,000 for taxiway and apron refurbishment. When that airport threatened to close in 2008, some AOPA members bought it to keep it going. While Craig was in Lincoln Park, he held a town hall meeting to update pilots on some of the latest issues facing general aviation and take their questions. Washington Follies came up, of course, but Craig may have surprised the audience with one thing: general aviation is better represented in Congress than many think.
Today we have almost 200 members of the House of Representatives in the General Aviation Caucus. We have 39 United States senators. That's almost 40% of the United States Senate. Now, it's not an ironclad guaranteed deal that they're going to vote for us on our issues every single time, but it is an absolute certainty that when we have an issue and have a concern where we're going to try to seek support for modifying Part 23, and we're going to talk to them about some of these interdictions that Homeland Security and Customs have been engaged in. We go there and we find a willing audience, a friendly voice, people willing to step up. When a user fee was proposed or about to be proposed in this current round of budget making in Washington by the Obama administration, over 218, and that's the magic number, majority in Congress, over 218 members of Congress actually sent a letter to members of the House, actually sent a letter saying, please don't send user fees.
And speaking of Congress, the House has just passed a $44 billion budget for the Department of Transportation and Housing and Urban Development. And there are no FAA user fees in that budget. FAA is part of the Transportation Department, but President Obama has threatened to veto that bill because $44 billion is too little, he says. It's nearly $8 billion less than the two departments will spend this fiscal year. The president says the budget cut for transportation would severely undermine critical investments such as air traffic control infrastructure. But it looks like EAA is going to have to pay for ATC services at AirVenture. The show is next week, but a meeting with the federal court judge about the petition against the fee isn't scheduled until August. But the show will go on, and we'll be there. Stop by the AOPA tent, and we'll have 3 special AOPA live shows from Oshkosh next week. If you can't make it in person, you can watch Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to see some of what you're missing. Something else that might, and we stress might, happen at AirVenture next week. We've had a little fun with the FAA and Icon Aircraft about the past deadline for an answer about the weight exemption for the A5 amphibian. AOPA pilot senior editor Al Marsh speculates in his blog this week that there just might be something for Icon from the FAA at the show. Meanwhile, Icon is showing off their new angle of attack indicator, something else the company is doing to make the aircraft safer. Icon puts the indicator front and center, just like in a fighter jet, and AOPA's safety expert Bruce Landsberg says it's about time.
Angle of attack is a really good idea, and I've never been able to understand why we always deal with this derivative of airspeed. And I'd really like to commend Icon, who just made an announcement this week that they are putting an analog angle of attack indicator in an amazing place, directly in the pilot's field of view. What a concept. So when we're doing a takeoff, we're doing a landing, or we're doing some maneuvering, and you should be heads up and looking outside, in your peripheral vision, and not too peripherally, you've got a direct depiction of exactly what the wing is doing.
Bruce has some pretty strong opinions on this and well, actually many other things. You can read more in his latest blog posting on AOPA.org. What's 50 years old has a brand new panel and paint and could be yours, and you can see it in person at AirVenture in front of the AOPA tent. Why, it's the AOPA Sweepstakes Debonair. And this week, the old bird got some new feathers. AOPA pilot editor at large Tom Horn shows us the process.
AOPA's Sweepstakes Debonair is coming together for Oshkosh. And what better way than to get a new paint job? Hey, that old paint job just had to go. But this year, there's a twist. We're looking at Craig Barnett in the orange shirt and KD Aviation's Don Reese putting decals all over the plane. These decals describe all the features of the Sweepstakes Debonair and also show some fun facts about the world of 1963, the year the Sweeps Debonair was built. Now just get a look at how fast these guys work over the span of 8 hours. That new prop went on quick too. So if you're heading to AirVenture, stop by the AOPA tent and look over the decals for yourself. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
And that is some feat, isn't it? Be sure to stop by the show to see the airplane. Looks great. Coming up after the break, flying to the Bahamas is more expensive thanks to new user fees. We find out why. Plus, Flywell talks about the dreaded bends. You're watching AOPA Live this week. Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. We all know the pilot population is on the decline, right? We all know we need to reach out to the next generation. Well, AOPA is doing that. We took aviation programs to the 2013 Boy Scout National Jamboree. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop tagged along.
35,000 teams, 10,000 acres, nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and 6 Vans RVs.
That's going to be 6 ships coming right over the top.
What a way to kick off Aviation Day at the 2013 Boy Scout National Jamboree.
So you can actually go from flying one of those to flying like one of these. And the coolest thing about flying one of these is look what's in the bottom of it. Skis, right?
Shannon Yeager from the AOPA Center to Advance the Pilot Community did a Q&A session on learning to fly. But the real draw was in this tent.
We brought Redbird with us. We brought eight AOPA Jays. And we had a line every morning before we opened the tent.
The line got a little bit long, but these guys stood out in the heat like a champ waiting for a chance to fly the Jay. And it was worth the wait, too.
It was really different from the other simulators I've been in. Most of them are just like you sit in and it kind of does it for you, or this one it really let you do the flying.
You're a pilot, you fly real airplanes. What do you think of the Jay?
I think it's a little subpar of what the real thing is, but it's a great experience for those that have never flown before.
What do you think as a first introduction to aviation, the Jay is like for these guys that have never flown an airplane?
I think it's a wonderful representation of what the real experience would be like.
Flying the Jay got the Scouts a totem patch and certificate that could be used towards earning an aviation merit badge. Thousands of kids filed through the tent over 10 days. Pull up. All right, let it coast on in. Just let it coast. Pull back. There you go.
Yeah.
You just landed.
Eli, I landed it.
What do you think about that? You just landed an airplane on the sim.
That's cool.
At the summit, Bechtel Family National Scout Reserve near Beckley, West Virginia. Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
AOPA is excited to work with the Boy Scouts of America. We hope to help this generation of Scouts become the next generation of pilots. But here's something cool for this generation of pilots. A special AirVenture price on an AOPA FlyQ EFB subscription. You can save $75 through the end of July. Just go to aopa.org/EFB special offer to learn more. On the 1st of July, the islands of the Bahamas did something that surprised the heck out of just about everybody. Without notice or consultation, they implemented a $50 fee on arriving aircraft. AOPA immediately started working on the problem, including flying to Nassau for a sit-down with government ministers.
Spent the time between July 1st and about the 13th or so of July working by phone with all of the stakeholders down there. It did escalate very quickly into their ministries for finance, tourism, the Out Island group, which is a hotel and service provider group. So a lot of conversations with them, and it became apparent during that 2-week fact-finding period that the only way this was going to be able to be cured was to get the decision makers in one place at one time across the same table and discuss it, find out what is the fee for, how is it implemented, what can be done about the fee, and what their interest was in doing anything about the fee. More importantly, it was to give them an idea of the impact that this fee has on general aviation that they may not have been aware of. And of course, that has a domino effect on their other industries, including their hotel group, the restaurants. So that generated the need for a meeting. That meeting occurred in Nassau on the 17th, which was last Wednesday. We would consider it a successful meeting, but there's more to do.
We expect to hear in the next day or two if the government will temporarily rescind the fee while the whole issue is studied. We'll keep you up to date on AOPA.org. If you're thinking of an island vacation, you might also be thinking about swimming and diving. You've heard about the bends, of course, something that happens to divers, right? Maybe not. It can happen to pilots even if they haven't been in the water. Here's more from Dr. Jonathan Sackier.
Remember all that cool aeromedical stuff you read about when learning to fly? Well, I think it's cool. For instance, the stuff about the dangers for scuba divers before flying. And if you're a diver, you surely know about it and how late in the vacation you can slip in that last dive before heading off to the airfield. The bends, that's what we're talking about. Nitrogen coming out of solution from your bloodstream and forming little bubbles that can block blood vessels, leading to pain, damage to all sorts of vital body parts, and even death. This happens when one goes from a higher to lower pressure environment, like 80 feet below the surface of the waves to the surface of the ocean, or the taxiway to the wild blue yonder. Originally described in workers building caissons or enclosed spaces used in bridge supports, and also known as decompression illness or DCI, this occurs when there is a sudden and sustained lowering of atmospheric pressure, and today's rapidly climbing unpressurized aircraft can achieve that goal, especially in the flight levels. But it depends on your personal health and risk factors, and without having been scuba diving at all. Risk factors that increase the potential for DCI include rapid rate of ascent, sustained exposure to high altitude, dehydration, obesity, advanced age, and alcohol. Symptoms might include visual disturbance, headache, pains in the skin or joints, itching, or a strange rash that looks marbled or mottled and is tender to the touch. Of course, more severe symptoms can occur and are likely if no action is taken when the problem declares itself. You can avoid decompression or aviation bends by pre-breathing oxygen and using supplemental oxygen all the way up. In the event decompression problems occur in flight, the first and immediate step is to don 100% oxygen, followed by an immediate and maximum rate descent. Upon landing, the pilot should seek medical attention and also ensure that all occupants are safe as well. Do not fly until you are fully recovered. You know, whenever I talk about this, I'm reminded of the young doctor coming to the waiting room to tell the anxious family that their relative is quite unwell and cannot breathe without oxygen. This would move me to ask, which medical school did you go to? Aviation bends are rare, but can be really nasty. So please, protect yourself with AOPA's pilot protection services and supplemental oxygen.
We hope you'll join us for our coverage from AirVenture next week. We'll have shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And remember, you can get the latest news from Oshkosh in real time on AOPA.org. Until then, we leave you with footage of the AOPA Sweepstakes Debonair. Come by and see it at the AOPA tent. We're on the south side of the Rockwell Collins exhibit hangar, Charlie. I'm Tom Haynes. See you in Oshkosh.